All right, our next little Figma exercise. Experience design with Figma is about colors, and it's a 45-point deal. And this one's not real hard, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask you to create, you'll just need a kind of a like a canvas to work on in Figma. Show you how to do that. You're going to make some boxes that you're going to fill with warm colors, and I'll show you a little bit about what that is about. And cool colors, some boxes filled with cool colors, some boxes filled with monochromatic colors or monochrome colors, and then some gradients. I want you to see how to do that. And if you don't know, if you're thinking, I don't know what warm colors are, cool colors are, I'll show you an easy way to solve that here as we go. All right, so I'm going to hop over here to I'm on Google Chrome, and I'm at Figma, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus sign up on the top right hand side. I am going to rename this. I'm going to call it Colors, and I'll call it Colors Demo. I'll call it even Colors Movie Demo. There we go. All right, so I got a name for it, and I'm going to go to the Frame tool on the left hand side. I'm going to go to Paper over on the right hand side, and I'm going to go to Letter under Paper. All that does is give me a sheet to work on, and I'm happy with that. Now here's the whole well, let's do this first. It's 5, 5, 5, and then 3. So what I mean by that is you got to draw like 5 boxes up here. So I'm going to draw a box. I'll take the arrow tool and alt drag that box, and I'm just going to keep alt dragging it until I have 5 of them. Yay! All right. So I've got 5 boxes. There we go. That's good. Now, those have to be filled with warm colors. Well, if you do a Google search, especially a Google image search for warm colors, you'll see something like what I've got right here. The warm colors are red, orange, yellows. You get a little bit of that kind of moving toward purple, a little bit of the yellow that's moving toward green, right? It's right on the edge there. So these are the warm colors over here on the left of this diagram that I'm showing you. The cool or the cold colors are more like the purple, blue, blue green, the greens, the yellowish greens. You see them over here. All right, so it's color theory, it's color moods and everything, warm and cool. All right, so let's go back over here to Figma, and really this is as simple as coming along here and saying, well, okay, so this first set of boxes, I'm just clicking the box and clicking the fill color and just finding some different shades of reds and oranges and yellows and all those kind of warmish colors, right? Browns would even be considered warm colors because they are very related to red. And now again, if you look, even yellow and yellowish orange, those are considered warm colors. So I could throw something in there that's kind of yellowish, and then I need one more. And they all have to be different. Don't give me any two that are just alike. They all have to be a little bit different. So I'll go with like a real deep brownish kind of thing. All right, so this is an example of warm colors. Now, if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to do this really, but if you wanted to, you could come along here and take the type tool and drag yourself out a little frame, and you could even and I was working with a font and a size earlier, and so it's kind of remembering that font and size, and so I'm going to stretch that out, and I'll make that box. Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Right. I don't care if you label them or not, but and if you're working with text, you can come over here to the text box, all the text controls over on the side for size and font and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to label them if you don't want to, but I did. Look at me go. All right, so the next thing would be some cool colors, right? So I'm going to take all of that. I'll just select all of it. I'm going to hold the Alt key, and I'm going to drag it so that I make a copy. And this is not going to be warm colors. This is going to be cool colors or cold colors, if you would prefer. And so these have to just be filled, and I'm going to do this super fast, right? These have to be filled with blues, purples, greens, all of these things kind of at this end of the color. I'm just going to the fill box is all I'm doing, and I'm just taking those existing colors, because those are warm colors that I alt dragged, and I don't want warm colors now. I want want cool colors, right? Okay, so there we go. I've got 5 cool colors there. Those are in the cool color family. And again, if you don't know what that is, go do a Google image search and it will show you what is considered warm and what is considered cool. All right, so let's move on. Now we do monochromatic. I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to Alt drag it and make a copy. Yay. Okay. This is going to be monochrome or monochromatic if you prefer. And I got to stretch that box out to make that fit. All right, there we go. And again, you know, I don't care if you don't label it. I'll know what they are, but you can label it if you want to. Okay, so monochromatic means this. It's all related to the same color. Right? These would all have to be greens, or they would all have to be purples, or they would all have to be blues, or all have to be yellows, or something like that. So like, let's say that I decide I'm going to do greens, right? It's going to be all shades of green. So I would take, on the fill box, I would move over here to the green area. And you know what? I'm going to scoot this over. I'm going to make this a little bit easier to demo here. All right. So if I go to the fill box, let's say I want to start with a real dark green, Okay, cool. Good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and click the next box. And here comes a trick that kind of helps out on making a monochrome set of colors. I'm going to click that next box. I'm going to go to its fill. I'm going to take this eyedropper that's right here. There's an eyedropper here. I'll click that and I'll go click the previous box. It was that dark green color that I picked. So I'm going to click it, but then I'm going to go back to the fill box over here, which has matched the dark green, and I'm going to shove this up kind of diagonally. And so now I've got a lighter green. It's very much related to what I had before, but it's a lighter shade. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'll select here. I'll go to its fill box. I'll take the eyedropper tool. I'll click on the previous, and then I'm going to take that little donut thing and shove it up this way. And I just keep kind of pumping up the lightness of the green colors as I go. So I'm going to click on this one. I'll go to the fill box. I want the eyedropper. I want the previous box, and then I'm going to take that right up there. And then I'm going to I'll go ahead and close that. And then I'm going to click this and go to its fill box, and I'll move it over a little bit. Eyedropper, click on that previous light green, and I'm going to push this over so it's almost white, and I'll close that box right there. So that's what's meant by monochrome right there, all the same shade, right? They're all greens, but well, I didn't mean all the same shade. All greens, but different, you know. I got a dark green, I got a light green, I got a lot of stuff in the middle. That is monochromatic, all related colors. All right, our last thing that we're going to do here is a little work with gradients. So for the gradients, I'm going to draw a new box down here. I'll take my arrow tool and I'm going to Alt drag that box and Alt drag that box again, because you have to have 3. All right, how do you do gradients in Figma? Here we go. All right, so I'm going to select the box. I'm going to go over here to the fill, and then at the top of the fill box, you'll see right now it says solid. So I'm going to drop that, and where it says linear, radial, angular, and diamond, all 4 of those are gradients. So you could use any of these. It's up to you. You can choose. So let's just start with linear, shall we? When I do that, if you look at the box, it's being filled with just kind of a gray to white kind of looking thing. Okay. Well, right up here at the top of the fill box, it's showing me these boxes that I'm working with. So if I click on the first one, let's say maybe I want that to be red. I don't want it to be gray. I want it to be red. So I've got it. It's red. And if you look over here at the rectangle that I drew, it is now red to kind of fading to like a white. All right, let's go to the other box here, and I want to show you something. What if I say, well, I want that to be black. I want this gradient to go red to black. So I put it on black. I drag down here and I put it on black, but I'm looking at the rectangle here, and that is not black. It's not black, and here's why. There is, for every one of these, they're called color stops, right? Color markers, if you would prefer. For every one of these color stops or color markers, there is an opacity slider right here. And right now, that opacity slider is set on 0%. You can tell right here that it says 0%. Let's change that, right? If I slide this up to 100%, now I really do have a red and black gradient. Cool. All right. So that's the basics of how you do a gradient. Now let's look at some other things. I'm going to go ahead and close that fill box, and I'll click on the next box, and I'll go to the fill, and I'll go to, let's do a radial this time. We'll do a radial. Boom. All right. So once again, I get the same kind of, I got that gray box, and I got the other box. Okay. So let's just build, this is going to be a really ugly radial gradient. Let's say that I want to start it off with some green. Okay. Now here's a thing you can do. On this bar that's up at the top of the fill box, I can kind of click in here in empty spots and put other color markers. So let's say that now on this second color marker, I want to add some shade of blue. Okay, but I got to be kind of aware of what is the opacity setting of that. See, right now the opacity setting of that is 73.44, which is okay if that's what you want, but if it's not what you want, you better turn it up or turn it down to whatever you do want. All right, so if you want like solid colors, then you need to turn the opacity up to 100%. I'll go to this next color box I've got here, and let's say I want to kind of put in some orangish color here. All right, so that's sort of an orangish color, but once again, if you look at the opacity, it's way down at like 39.5. I want to put some really orange color in there. All right, so let's finish this off down on this end of this bar. You see what I've done so far up here? I've got green and blue and orange, and now let's maybe throw in some black. But my black is at 0%, so I'm going to bring that all the way up. And now if you'll look down at my rectangle, you can see the result of my radial gradient that I have put together. Now you can distribute these, you can move the boxes, and that affects, as long as this rectangle is selected down here, if I move these boxes around, that affects the way the gradient looks, right? And here's another thing you can do. Down here on the gradient itself, this is not on the fill box necessarily. Down here on the gradient itself, there's this bar that shows the color squares, but I can grab the bar and stretch it and move it. See that? See how I can stretch? There's endpoints on that thing, and I can stretch that, and I can grab the other endpoint and move it, and I can even stretch it outside. So I just kind of lost the black on there. But I could also shorten it in here. You see, there's just all kinds of control that you have on this, and there's a little bubble up here that allows you to squeeze it or stretch it, right? So playing around with this bar, like swinging it around and stretching it and using that little bubble thing right there, that makes a difference as well. And when you think, okay, I've got it, I've got what I want, you can just close the fill box. And just for kicks and giggles, just to finish this off, let's throw on, let's do an angular gradient and just see what we get. I've started with a red, and I'll go to a blue color. I'll bring my blue up to, and let's pull this off so I can kind of see. All right, there we go. So I've moved this over. I've moved the fill box over so I can see this is what the angular gradient is doing here. You see it's kind of swinging around sort of like a clock, and I can squeeze that. That's not having a lot of an effect. I can rotate it. I can move it. Right. So that's an angular gradient. You could also try diamond. Do you like diamond? Look at diamond. There we go. There's diamond. And you can rotate that around. And all right. Cool. And I didn't label my gradients down here. I didn't bring a text label, but like I said, you don't have to have text labels anyway if you don't want to. This is what I'm after right here. I've got 5 of warm, 5 of cool, 5 of monochromatic, and then 1, 2, 3 gradients. And I named it, right? There's colors up here. So what you would do now is you would go to the share link and make sure that this link thing says anyone with the link. Okay. Because if this says only people invited, I won't be able to see your work. So this is going to have to be anyone with the link. You do copy link. You go turn that link in on Google Classroom. There you go. Bingo, bango, bongo. Your turn.